Alrighty, we're going to try this again, and we're going to have to move quick because apparently I can't record more than 7 minutes on a phone without it jumping and splitting the video in two, and I really can't afford a camera right now. So 2016 Suburban. First nugget on this is the DVD system is a common failure. Fuse is fine, everything lights up except the screens. The disc won't eject. I discovered alternator. It has a bad regulator. Well, voltage drop on there will shut down the DVD system for some dumb reason. So if you have a Suburban, Yukon, GMC, or anything like that that has a DVD system and is shut down, you might consider replacing your alternator. Don't go by the standard parts store alternator test. Those things aren't always accurate. Different voltages are needed at different conditions. Idle doesn't really require much voltage draw. This one has a flash and check engine light, which is something you don't ignore. It signifies a rich condition that can and will damage your catalyst system and cause other issues. I pulled freeze frame data because there was no codes stored in the computer. Check engine light didn't stay on, so then if you have a scan tool, you go to freeze frame data. I showed a faulty O2 sensor. Catalyst temperatures were really high. That's going to be a blockage somewhere in the back of the exhaust system. We'll get that cleaned out. What this one needs is a simple tune-up. 142,000 miles. She's going to get some spark plugs. Part of tune-up, I do believe, on any vehicle should also include pulling your intake. You'll want to clean your mass airflow sensor. It's always going to be before the throttle. Follow your intake. You'll find it. Do this with a mass airflow sensor cleaner. Don't try to put carburetor cleaner on that. It's going to mess it up. And don't go rubbing it with your hands or drying it. Just spray the stuff on there. Let it dry for about 20-30 minutes. Put it back on. You're good. To test these, I don't care what a lot of videos show you. Unplugging that to test it is not always accurate either. Especially on new vehicles, it's going to compensate for it automatically. So you pull your intake, vacuum lines, PVC lines. To get to this, it's really easy. You see this buildup here? That's carbon buildup. You're getting a lot if you're running in low octane fuel. Most people, especially with gas prices now, can't really afford ethanol free and just run the low grade fuels. If you're going to do that, that's fine, but you got to clean your fuel systems. Run some, I suggest Barium B12 over Seafoam. I'm not a really big fan of Seafoam. But once you have your intake off, it's easy to get to. These are usually 10 millimeter or 8 millimeter, depending on the vehicles. These tabs here come off really easy. Pull that, push in, push down, pull off. You don't want to touch this or move this while it's connected to the computer. And the reason for that, these are set with a factory percentage. Well, as you build this up, the computer compensates. It opens that flap more and more. That's why if you have to change a battery, or your car goes dead, or you get jumped, you first crank it, it's going to run like snot. Just drive it for a little bit. There is a relearn procedure. You might have to look it up for a specific vehicle. This one I'll do with a OBD2. Then just take it out and drive it. Let it relearn. As far as codes, on a flash and check engine, you go to the parts store. They can scan it for free. Don't let them reset your check engine light. That triggers IM monitors. That's going to be a different video. And I'm also going to do a video on, if you have a scan tool, even a cheap one, how to read your fuel trim, which is paramount in diagnosing vehicles, and how to really determine if you've got this sensor fault. Well, is that sensor really out, or is there another issue causing it? So this one showed an O2 sensor. It's isolating fine. The voltage level's fine. So it's not an issue. And if you read your fuel trim, those of you that do know how, and you have one that says 99.2 on your long-term fuel trim, you can ignore that. All that is the computer giving you information on it, but it's showing that that O2 sensor is not being used to determine fuel trim. So that 99.2 does not mean you have a bad O2 sensor. Bank 1, Bank 2, if you're ever confused on that, if you can pull up your cylinders, Bank 1 is going to be the bank on the 1-cylinder side. Bank 2 is going to be the bank on the 2-cylinder side. 4 cylinders will only have Bank 1. You'll have upstream is the O2 sensor before your cat. Downstream is the O2 sensor after your cat. But yeah, once you get this unplugged, you'll take some Berman B12 or just some kind of carburetor cleaner. Clean out around this real good. Don't force this open, just gently open it, clean it. Put it back on, don't over tighten these. You know, it's kind of torque to spec if you know the specs. Plug back in, put your intake back on, you're good to go. Spark plugs, when you change your spark plugs, don't yank on the wires. Grab a hold of the boot, twist it, pull it a little bit, it'll come off. Don't over tighten your new spark plug, you'll strip your block. As far as sensor faults, like I said, don't always go with your first code read. Do a little diagnostics. It'll shock you how many times something as simple as a air intake temperature sensor can throw off everything. Air intake temperature, the temperature of the air coming in, is greatly read by the computer, and it determines a lot of different factors with how different sensors are reacting. Alternator, low voltage, it'll cause issues. Bad battery will cause issues. And sometimes you don't even know it. You have no way to know. Throttle position sensor does not fail all that often. You have two on most new vehicles. See, there's no cable here. This is your throttle position sensor. Inside you have a pedal throttle position sensor. They correlate with each other. If one of them are out of whack, it's going to signal both codes sometimes. You just have to figure out which one it is. Pull up live data on OBD. You're going to run with your mass airflow reading in correlation with the throttle reading. That'll usually tell you which one's wrong. They should be pretty close together. You know, clean your PCVs. A lot of times just pulling your valves, pulling your sensors, pulling different things and cleaning them is all it takes. It's not always a high dollar fix to fix something. Future video coming, like I said, on OBD2 and how to really use it to diagnose what it can do. Ball tires on the inside of this one, so I'll be doing something on suspension and how to determine what noise means what, how handling conditions mean what. If you found any of this useful, please subscribe so the videos are seen. It's not about money or fame, and hopefully something in here helped you. Have a great day.